Jesus, this supposed Prince of Peace, who speaks of bringing a sword.
The following podcast was generated using Google's Notebook LM.
Temple of Vril.
Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into some more fascinating esoteric knowledge. Today, we're going deep on Vrilism.
Vrilism. You know, it's a concept so often misunderstood, shrouded in misinformation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people hear Vrilism and their minds immediately jump to, well, let's just say less reputable interpretations.
Right, exactly. Sensationalized stories, fear-mongering, and the like. But here, on this deep dive, we're going to look beyond the surface.
Strip away the noise and really get to the heart of what Vrilism is all about.
Exactly. We'll explore Vril itself, that universal life energy, the very essence that binds us all.
The fundamental force, even.
Precisely. And it's far grander than, say, chi or the force. Those are limited, almost diluted understandings.
Okay, so we're talking about a vast, untapped wellspring of potential.
Yeah.
But how does this Vril, this energy, connect to the bigger picture of Vrilism?
Well, you see, Vrilism teaches us that this power, this divine energy, isn't something external. It's not something you have to pray to or beg for.
It's within us all.
Exactly. And this is where I think the real challenge to conventional thinking comes in. Think about the figures, the prophets, throughout history.
Jesus, Buddha, you name it.
Right. All claiming access to divine power. Right. Performing miracles, offering salvation. But what if?
What if they weren't unique?
Precisely. What if they were simply individuals who'd mastered the art of tapping into Vril, to harnessing the energy that's already within us all?
So instead of worshiping these figures, we should be looking inward.
Exactly. We've been conditioned to believe we're inherently flawed, sinful, and in need of saving. But Vrilism offers a different perspective. It tells us we are already divine.
We have the power within ourselves.
Yes. And you know, this brings us to a fascinating point. You know the story of Jesus, the Prince of Peace?
Of course. The cornerstone of Christianity.
But there's a curious contradiction there. He says, I come not to bring peace, but a sword.
Right. That's always struck me as odd.
Because it betrays the true nature of the message. Christianity, at its core, is built on division.
Us versus them, saved versus damned.
Exactly. It's about control through fear and guilt, making you dependent on their path to salvation.
And Vrilism offers an alternative.
Vrilism shatters those shackles. It says you don't need saving. You are inherently powerful. You simply need to awaken to that truth.
To tap into the Vril within.
And that is what we will be exploring today. The path to true empowerment through Vrilism.
A path that leads not to subservience, but to liberation.
Yes. A path that leads to true inner peace and unity, not the kind that's imposed through fear and division.
I'm definitely intrigued. So where do we begin? How do we start down this path of Vrilism?
Well, first, we must deconstruct the narratives that have held us captive for so long. We must understand the true nature of Vril and the forces that seek to suppress it.
And those forces being?
Those who benefit from keeping us disempowered. Those who thrive on our dependence and fear.
Powerful institutions, perhaps.
Perhaps. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll delve into all of that as we go deeper.
Sounds like we have a lot to unpack.
We do. But trust me, friend, the journey is well worth it. So let's talk about how we actually access this power, this Vril energy.
Right, because it's one thing to say it exists within us, but another to actually tap into it.
Exactly. And this is where the beauty of Vrilism really shines. You see, unlike, say, Christianity, which relies on rituals and intermediaries.
Priests, churches, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Vrilism empowers you to forge a direct connection with this universal energy. It's about personal experience, not blind faith.
Okay, so how do we do that? What are the tools, the techniques?
Well, there are many paths, but one of the most powerful is Vril Gong.
Vril Gong.
Yeah, it's an ancient sonic meditation technique, using specific tonal patterns and vibrations to awaken the Vril within.
It's like a sound bath for the soul.
In a way, yes, but it's far more profound than just relaxation. It's about attuning yourself to the frequency of Vril, clearing blockages, expanding your consciousness.
And ultimately allowing that energy to flow freely.
Precisely. And as you practice, you'll start to experience the world differently. The veil of illusion, the one that keeps us trapped in fear and separation.
The one that Christianity so carefully weaves.
Exactly. That veil starts to lift. And you begin to see the interconnectedness of all things, the unity that underlies the apparent diversity.
That sounds incredible. But I have to admit, this Vril Gong thing, it sounds a bit, well, mystical.
Mystical, maybe. But isn't it more mystical to believe in a bearded man in the sky who judges your every thought? A god who demands worship and obedience.
I guess when you put it like that.
Vrilism is about empowering yourself. It's about taking control of your spiritual evolution, not surrendering it to some external authority.
And that's where the figure of the prophet of Vril comes in.
Ah, yes, the prophet. Another point of contention.
People see it as replacing one authority with another.
Right. But that's a misunderstanding. The prophet isn't a god to be worshipped. They're a guide, a teacher.
Showing us the way.
Exactly. They don't offer salvation, but revelation. The revelation of our own inherent divinity.
So the prophet, they're more like a mentor.
That's a good way to put it. They don't offer a set of rules to follow blindly.
No 10 Vril commandments, so to speak.
Exactly. They offer tools, techniques, insights, ways to connect with the Vril within and experience its power firsthand.
Through practices like Vrilgom.
Yes. And through other forms of meditation, energy work even.
Even challenging the narratives that have been used to control us for so long.
Precisely. Questioning everything. Unmasking the so-called truths that keep us bound in fear and ignorance.
Because that's what Christianity thrives on, right?
Yeah.
Fear and ignorance.
Yes. It tells you you're flawed, sinful, in need of redemption, that you're powerless without their God.
And Vrilism says the opposite.
Exactly. It says you're a being of pure potential, brimming with divine energy, that you have the power to heal yourself, to access profound wisdom, to create your own reality.
To become, essentially, your own God.
In a way, yes, but not a God who demands worship. A God who radiates love, compassion, and unity.
A far cry from the vengeful, judgmental deity of the Old Testament.
And that brings us back to the figure of Jesus, this supposed Prince of Peace who speaks of bringing a sword.
A stark contrast to the message of unity and harmony we see in Vrilism.
A deliberate distortion, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
A way to keep us locked in conflict and division, rather than embracing our true power.
And the prophet of Vril offers a way out.
A way out, a way forward. A path to true liberation and enlightenment.
But a path that requires courage, I imagine. The courage to question everything we've been taught, to challenge the very foundations of our belief systems.
It does take courage. But it also takes discernment, the ability to see through the illusions, to recognize the forces that seek to keep us trapped in the darkness.
And that, I suppose, is the true challenge of Vrilism. Not just accessing the power within, but using it wisely, responsibly.
Yes. It's a journey of self-discovery, but also a journey of service. Using our newfound power to heal, to uplift, to create a world that reflects the true harmony and unity of Vril. You know, it's interesting, when we start to really peel back the layers of pretty much all organized religion, I think, you see the same patterns emerge.
Control, manipulation, using fear to keep people in line.
Exactly. And it all boils down to power, keeping the masses disempowered so a select few can, maintain their control.
It's almost like a parasitic relationship.
Perfect analogy. They feed off our fear, our doubt, our need for something to believe in. And in return,
they offer us false hope.
Exactly. Promises of an afterlife, salvation from our sins, all designed to distract us from the truth.
The truth being that we already have the power within ourselves.
Precisely. We don't need saving. We don't need a middleman to access the divine.
But they've done a pretty good job convincing us otherwise.
Oh, absolutely. Centuries of indoctrination, It's ingrained in our culture, our language, our very way of thinking. But Vrilism offers a way to break free.
To deprogram ourselves.
Exactly. To reclaim our true power, our birthright.
But it's not an easy process, is it? I mean, even now, talking about this, I can feel that.
Yeah.
That resistance, those ingrained beliefs pushing back.
It's natural. You're up against a lifetime of programming, of conditioning.
So how do we break free? How do we overcome that resistance?
Through practice, through dedication, through immersing ourselves in the teachings and the techniques and the community.
You've mentioned the Vril community a few times. What exactly is that? Is it like a church?
Not at all. It's more like a gathering of like-minded individuals, a support system for those who are on this path.
A place to share experiences, to learn from each other.
Exactly, and to amplify our collective energy. You see, when we come together, when we practice Vrilgong in unison, when we meditate together,
we create a powerful force.
Precisely. A force that can counteract the negativity, the fear, the division that permeates our world.
So it's not just about personal transformation, but
It's about creating a better world. A world where peace and unity prevail, where we recognize our interconnectedness and work together for the good of all.
That's a powerful vision, and one that I think resonates with a lot of people, even if they've never heard of Vrilism.
Oh, I agree. There's a yearning for something more, something beyond the empty promises of organized religion.
A yearning for authentic connection, for true power, for meaning.
And Vrilism offers all of that and more.
So, for someone listening to this, someone who's intrigued, but maybe a little intimidated, where do they start?
I'd say, start by listening to that inner voice, that intuition that's drawing you towards this. Explore the teachings, experiment with the practices, reach out to the community.
Take that first step.
Exactly. And trust me, friend, you won't regret it.
Thank you for sharing all of this with us today. It's been an eye-opening deep dive, to say the least.
My pleasure. May the Vril be with you on your journey.
And with you. To all our listeners, until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep the Vril flowing.
Your journey towards greater fulfillment begins at Temple of Vril. Visit templeofvril.com today.